I'm Preetham Mukhatira, the product manager for the Dell Hybrid Cloud System for Microsoft. And today we are going to go over a technical overview. Back in 2014, partnering with Microsoft, we launched CPS Premium, which is part of the joint engineering Dell and Microsoft had done to develop a large appliance-like integrated system to deliver hybrid cloud capabilities, targeting mostly large service providers, telcos, and some large enterprises like banks and other financial institutions. Over the years, we've got a lot of feedback from our customers on CPS Premium, and we quickly realized there is a market for customers who want to start small, who want more flexibility, and who want various opportunities to mitigate risk while adopting hybrid cloud. And this is where the Dell Hybrid Cloud System for Microsoft was born. And it is now part of the joint development program called CPS Standard with Microsoft. Some of the key challenges our customers were having adopting private cloud were around complexity. It was too expensive for them, and there was a ton of risk adopting not just a new set of technologies, but a new operating model. So with respect to complexity, a lot of customers had started down the path of building and operating a hybrid cloud themselves, in some cases a private cloud, built on some of the standard technologies like System Center, VMM, and storage spaces. They were operating for a couple of years, and every deployment was custom, was bespoke. It added to the costs, but as they ran into issues, they figured out the complexity of building an end-to-end system, which includes SDS, SDN, virtualization, and then the cloud layers on top of that was complex. Not just building it, but also keeping it up to date, keeping it current, as well as then focusing on how to deliver applications on top of that infrastructure in a cloud service delivery model. Also, as they went about operating it, they realized that there were a lot of costs associated with this. Anytime you had a failure, you could not guarantee SLAs. You had constantly evolving technologies, best practices. Keeping up with all that change and all that complexity proved to be very costly and added a significant overhead to their bottom line. Another area where customers were having a lot of challenges were also around the notion of hybrid, right? What does hybrid really mean for those customers? Where does public cloud make sense? Where does private cloud matter? And how do the two come together to realize the value of a true hybrid cloud? Also, the risk on adopting a new cloud model. We heard from a lot of customers where they understood what hybrid cloud means. They understood the value of and the efficiency of hybrid cloud, but they just didn't know if they had the appetite for risk to take on this new infrastructure, this new operating model. And hence, we noticed a significant amount of customers either did not take the next step and adopt hybrid, or they didn't realize the goals of what they originally set out to go after as they had deployed what they built in-house on-prem. So, and this aligns with a lot of research we've seen from some of the industry analysts and partners, where while majority of customers believe hybrid is the right next step for IT transformation, very few, 3 out of 10, have actually realized that goal. Keeping that some of those parameters in mind and those concerns in mind, we built the Dell Hybrid Cloud System for Microsoft, right? Some of the key areas we wanted to solve were around simplifying the hybrid cloud, right? Simplifying not just the infrastructure, simplifying how you deliver services, how you migrate services, how you treat a backup, DR, essentially packaging all the needs of a reliable, efficient infrastructure, a cloud infrastructure in a box, essentially, right, and make that available to you. The other area where we sought to address was around hybrid and what that really means, right? So giving you the choice, the control over where your data resides, what stays on-prem, what moves to the cloud. We've picked a couple of use cases around backup and DR and integrated that with Azure and provided you an option where if you choose, you can move certain backup workloads to Azure. You can keep some on-prem. You can also use Azure potentially as a recovery site for your infrastructure. And again, these choices were provided, are available to you out of the box. Another area where here at Dell we've spent a lot of time modeling and differentiating was around how can we reduce that investment risk that you as a customer make in this infrastructure. So it's not just about delivering infrastructure efficiently, it is also about removing any barriers for you to adopt this. This is where we build certain utility-based consumption models and low-risk financial models working with Dell Financial Services, not just to convert your traditional CapEx to OpEx, but also provide you with tools like Cloud Flex Pay, where you can adopt private cloud for up to 6 months or a year at no cost, at no risk. And as you realize the potential of hybrid cloud, you can convert that into an OpEx or a CapEx model going forward, significantly reducing risk. So these are areas that we look to address by bringing you the Dell Hybrid Cloud System fully integrated, fully supported from an end-to-end hardware and software perspective, including integrations into Azure to give you that hybrid cloud experience. Some of the common use cases and customer profiles we were looking to address with the Dell Hybrid Cloud Systems are around traditional IaaS, PaaS, certain apps, and BCDR. Right? Majority of your applications today are virtualized, and really the first step to realizing the potential for cloud is to rationalize your applications, your virtualized applications, your traditional apps, and see how that fits into a cloud model. This is where infrastructure as a service plays a key role. Whether they are Windows VMs or Linux VMs, the first step is really to build that IaaS model around those applications and move them over to cloud. And this is where today we see majority of cloud deployments go. And DHCS is perfectly suited for that, for those use cases. Also, with DHCS, you get SQL, MySQL, websites, some of the PaaS services that you can quickly turn on, quickly make available to your business users or your customers, and they can now leverage some of these services as a PaaS offer. Also, customers have looked at deploying Exchange, SharePoint, building their own apps and delivering it as a service on something like a Dell Hybrid Cloud System. There have been various industry verticals as well as service providers who build their own apps targeting specific customers, whether it is analytics, mobile, and those can be packaged in a DHCS and delivered as a service. BCDR is another key value prop. A lot of our service providers are looking to deliver DR as a service to their end customers, and which is a great way for their end customers to now not have to stand up multiple DR instances on-prem. They can use a service provider as a hoster and consume DR as a service in a consumption on-demand model. Of course, Azure Backup and Site Recovery also come pre-integrated in the infrastructure and are available to a lot of our customers. The key customer profiles that we target, enterprise IT who are traditionally looking at virtualized apps, looking for a more efficient way to deliver these applications, more streamlined way to deliver these applications to their customers, or whether you are an application developer who's building net new apps and is looking to deliver that as well. Service providers is another key growth area for us, and there is a growing demand for infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, IaaS, BCDR, apps from a growing list of hosters and service providers in not just some of the top 12 countries, but also some of the emerging economies as well. And really, from a service provider, we view them as whether you're a systems integrator, MSP, a hoster, as long as your business model is moving towards delivering services to your customers and essentially cloud services, we believe you are a key target for this infrastructure. And we see a lot of interest from tier 2, tier 3 service providers in a lot of the emerging economies, and particularly in EMEA and APJ, that have found great value in this. And we'll talk about some customer use cases as well later that address these concerns. So what does DHCS bring to you, right? What's part of the package? So in this rack, which includes hardware, software integration to Azure, you have an infrastructure that is pre-configured, pre-tested, validated, and architected with N+1 redundancy, and it comes with configuration, backup, DR, monitoring, patching, and a bunch of host of automation as well to make sure your common day-to-day tasks are automated and are available to you out of the box. So it starts with the Dell infrastructure, the Microsoft software. It's pre-deployed, pre-configured. It includes Windows Azure Pack, which is your service delivery layer. And of course, there is an automated patching and updating mechanism that we will look in more detail later. That's pre-built. Also, one of the key design tenets of this infrastructure was flexibility around how small you could start and how you could grow, right? A lot of customers, particularly service providers, have come to us saying they would like to first onboard a customer with perhaps 50 VMs or a couple of customers with 100 VMs. And then they would like to grow the infrastructure as their customer needs grow or as they onboard additional customers. So that was a key design criteria for us. And that is where you'll see you're able to start as small as 4 nodes and scale up to 16 nodes in this infrastructure in an automated fashion. This also comes pre-packaged with our scale-ready payment solutions with Dell Financial Services to reduce any risk. Also, you get a host of IaaS templates out of the box, and you can add further PaaS or application templates into Windows Azure Pack. VMM comes pre-configured to talk to Azure for backup, site recovery, and ops insight as well. So now you're getting through Windows Azure Pack and the software and this infrastructure, you're getting this cloud model that is almost appliance-like, that rolls into your data center and you can turn on day one. Just a quick sort of deep dive into what's in the box from a software perspective, right? So from an infrastructure perspective, your WAP tenant portal, which comes with a set of runbooks, with a set of DR add-ons, and with a set of VM roles already predefined to get you started. And of course, it relies on the various infrastructure components, whether it is VMM, whether it is backup, monitoring, WSUS, DR, and a host of other automated runbooks to keep the system going. Right, so all of this comes pre-configured out of the box on day one. And what ships from Dell essentially to a customer when you buy a DHCS is it comes rack stacked, cabled, integrated in the Dell factory, in the Dell Merge Center. It ships to the customer. The first step, the Dell deployment services that is part of a DHCS purchase, plugs in the cables, power, networking into your customer's data center, and kicks off the automation. Once you have your infrastructure configured, your AD, DNS, NTP identified, and you kick off the deployment, the full deployment of the stack from compute, storage, networking, and the cloud layers takes approximately 3 hours. Right? So essentially, at the end of that 3 hour period, you have a system that is that is ready to deliver cloud services. And the next step, if you have chosen, it configures Azure Site Recovery, Azure Ops Insight, and Azure Backup. Right? With these, now you truly get that hybrid capability where now you not only have your on-prem clouds running, you also have integration into Azure for site recovery and backup. And essentially, the key takeaway from this slide is there is tremendous amount of automation that has been done to make this experience at a customer site as seamless, as streamlined, as efficient as possible, so you can get started in days versus weeks. We've heard a lot of feedback from customers who've tried to deploy this themselves, and it is not just the cost of in terms of time and resources of rack stack cabling, baselining the firmware, baselining the configuration of the hardware, but it is the deployment and configuration of the software, the best practices around that, and the configuration of Azure Site Recovery Backup, which often takes months in a lot of cases. And some of our customers have told us each deployment is different from the other, which causes a lot of overhead in terms of maintenance, management. We solve that for you by standardizing and automating the configuration and deployment. So it's not just the software, right? As part of DHCS, you have various hardware configurations options available to you as well. Whether you want to start small with a minimum configuration of a 4-node C6320 that can start as low as 64 cores and 512 gig memory in total with a 2x2 JBOD storage configuration, or you can scale that up all the way to 16 compute nodes and up to 448 cores. So there's a lot of density packed into the system. It is built to be dense, efficient, and you can go up to 8 terabytes of memory as well. You also have the ability to scale storage from a 2x2 to a 2x4 configuration. You can start as small as 41 terabytes and scale up to 330 terabytes of raw capacity. There are also various configuration options around parity, around mirroring that give you that redundancy in storage as well, and resiliency in storage as well. It comes with S4048 top of the rack networking switch integrated. Another key area where a lot of customers gave us feedback was around the complexity of networking. And now you have this infrastructure essentially that's self-contained, that can operate with server storage networking. And also you'll notice you have the option to add backup nodes. Out of the box, we start with 0 up to 3 backup nodes, giving you up to 320 terabytes of raw backup capacity in those nodes. And of course, these are optional. You can choose to add these, or you can choose to integrate with your existing backup infrastructure on-prem as well. But we've made sure when we build an infrastructure, we not just talk about day 0 getting it stood up, we also take care of day N operations and how do we keep your business continuity and DR plans going. This is where Azure Backup and Site Recovery are also options to you. So between the capacity and the config options, we've also built a high IOPS option with all SSD based configurations for those VMs or applications that require higher IOPS. Right? So basically, the key takeaway from this slide is, although we've standardized a lot on the infrastructure to make it more efficient, more predictable, and fully automated, we also, our goal is to provide you the flexibility where it matters, right? Flexibility in capacity, flexibility in terms of performance, flexibility in terms of price. And that's really the key takeaway from this slide. Backup DR built in, right? One of our key tenets of building this fully automated infrastructure was, and this cloud infrastructure was, to have built-in options for backup and DR. As I said in the previous slide, we have Data Protection Manager (DPM) that comes as an option that you can choose anywhere between 0 to 3 backup nodes, and you also have the choice to use Azure as your secondary backup. So DPM becomes your primary backup in your data center, and you have the choice to use Azure as your secondary backup. Same with site recovery. Site recovery is a great way for a lot of our customers to achieve efficiency. If you're not looking to stand up another site as your DR site and add another CapEx investment there, you can also use Azure Site Recovery as your DR site. And just as the value of cloud, with Azure Site Recovery, you pay only when you use it, right? It is consumption based purely. You don't pay for having that infrastructure dedicated to you or available to you, or you pay for it when you use it. So you can run DR drills as you need. You can pull compliance reports, and you can always know that you have a DR site available to you. Azure Backup and DPM, you have options around encryption, around dedupe, and the full infrastructure. And it comes with runbooks that help you apply these policies around backup and site recovery to your tenants and their tenant plans in a more efficient manner. A little bit deep dive into how Azure Site Recovery is configured. Azure Site Recovery configuration, if customers have gone down the path of doing this themselves or try to do this themselves, it is not as straightforward. There are a lot of steps. There is a lot of prerequisites and integration between what's on-prem and what's in Azure. We have basically automated all of that for you, right? We've created an ASR vault in Azure, and then we've registered the provider that is on-prem. We've created a tenant plan and a DR add-on in Azure Pack. So all these steps that you would otherwise have to do and otherwise have to track are fully automated and available to you out of the box. All you have to do is provide your Azure subscription ID. You can then run your failovers, you can test failovers, you can run planned, unplanned failovers. So you've got all of these capabilities available to you out of the box. Another key area where we've added a lot of value and we've had a lot of positive feedback from customers is around patch and update. When we look at the system, with all the various components from Dell infrastructure, the software components from both Dell and Microsoft, there is not just from compute, storage, networking, all the way up to cloud, patching, updating, and maintaining this infrastructure in a non-disruptive fashion can prove to be a challenge, and is often the cause of downtime, is often the cause of failures. And this is where we've added a lot of value by packaging. Dell essentially packages both Microsoft and Dell patches together. We tested and validated on a stamp on both Dell and Microsoft's engineering labs, and then we make it available to customers. We've also built an end-to-end automation, we call it the P&U framework, which will then apply these packages to the entire system, host by host, software component by software component, in the sequence in which it should be applied. Because in some cases you apply patches to one before the other, you'll see a disruption. Right? So those are things we have fully sequenced. We've made sure they are applied non-disruptively, and we make sure we drain VMs so your tenants do not see any disruption in service. That is the key goal for us, and that is a huge value prop to a lot of our service providers. For them, tenant disruptions is one of the single biggest pain points that we've addressed with this. A quick example of what we've done here. This is an example of CPS Premium, but the same applies to DHCS as well at a similar scale. It shares a lot of the same components, the same automation framework. The key point here is zero tenant workload disruption. That is our goal. And you've seen this in this example. We have 133 fully orchestrated runtime hours that now has been, that would have otherwise taken a long time for IT admins to do by hand. We have done that in an automated fashion with zero tenant workload disruption. And all you've got to do is download the 1603 package and kick off a command. That the orchestration and automation in the background does all the work for you, host by host. And in this case, you see we've updated 312 physical hosts and the software components on that infrastructure in a highly automated, non-destructive fashion. This is the other area where we've spent a lot of time with Dell Financial Services developing. We've built programs such as Cloud FlexPay, where you can get a DHCS system on-prem at no cost for anywhere between 6 months to a year, and you can set your key success criteria, your test criteria, and evaluate the system. And if it meets your business goals, if it meets your IT goals, you can then adopt DHCS, and then you have an option to pay either CapEx, or we have put together some consumption-based payment options. You can use something like scale on demand, where you pay for only the capacity that you've used. So we gather feedback from you in terms of your utilization, and you get billed only for what you utilize. So there are other plans which allow you to model your growth over the years and get your infrastructure on-prem, but pay only for what you've modeled your growth is over the next year to 3 years. So what's coming out in the future, right? So with DHCS today, you've got a system that's ready to run, that's turnkey, that's appliance-like, that's fully automated, that can deliver IaaS and a set of PaaS services out of the box with backup, DR, all integrated. This is part of our long-term cloud strategy, and the same sort of goals apply as we go into the end of CY17 on to the next 3 to 5 years, and by the end of CY17, we are targeting Azure Stack and our integration with Azure Stack, and this is where you'll also see Azure Stack as it targets a lot of the cloud native application developers and the lot of Azure application developers, and brings you that capability on-prem. We do see Azure Stack as well as DHCS work side by side, where if you choose Azure Stack to be your single portal, Azure Stack will be able to connect to DHCS and leverage DHCS for to run your IaaS applications and workloads. Right? So there is a long-term an interoperability story between Azure Stack and DHCS, and of course we will continue to support DHCS well into CY22. And as part of this, this sort of double clicks into that interoperability story, where sometime mid to late next year, as Azure Stack launches, you can have an Azure Stack node that essentially with the Azure user experience that will connect to DHCS, and it'll be able to manage, lifecycle manage your IaaS services, and your tenant, essentially Azure Stack will be your tenant entry point, and DHCS will be your IaaS workhorse. Right? And of course, there are a bunch of services that will provide around that to help you also not just integrate this, also migrate apps and workloads as needed. A couple of customer case studies, right? And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. These are available at Savo as well as Dell.com, publicly available, publicly referenceable case studies. Peering One was one of our early adopters. They are a tier 2, tier 3 service provider in APJ, looking to grow rapidly. They had they had built cloud before. This is not the first time they've been a Microsoft cousin partner for years. They had built a DIY cloud infrastructure, but they were struggling with a lot of the challenges that we discussed early on: the complexity, the bespoke nature of every cloud deployment, and the fact that they couldn't scale, they couldn't bring on customers rapidly enough because it just took them months and months to build cloud. And also they ran into a lot of disruptions due to firmware issues, due to software configuration issues, patching, updating, all sorts of things, which we have helped eliminate through our automation and standardization that we have built in. And you see some of the numbers here. And with Peering One, they provide a lot of hosted services, DR as a service, backup, IaaS, and other services using DHCS to their end customers. Another case, CGI, they were one of our early launch partners. I have links to their videos here. They are available on Savo as well as publicly available videos and details. I'd encourage all of you to go look at this. And the key summary here is, for them, is customers would come to them regularly asking for these services, asking for IaaS, asking for database as a service. They just couldn't rapidly, predictably turn around infrastructure and operate them efficiently, drive their costs down and their margins higher. DHCS was a perfect fit for them, and you can, of course, read more in the case study. Another place to go to get more information on DHCS are CSCs, formerly known as the DSCs, our customer solution centers. We have globally enabled customer solution centers. Almost every CSC around the globe has a DHCS deployment and specialists and experts who can help you demonstrate the IaaS capabilities, the PaaS capabilities, some of the application capabilities, and also a full architectural deep dive into the infrastructure, whether it is VMM, operations manager, whether it is patching and updating, backup, DR. They can help your customers along this journey to not just understand infrastructure, also the use cases and how that delivers success. Wrapping it up, who to call? We've got a group of experts globally, both in the US, EMEA, APJ, at the solution centers, as our specialists, and some of our biz dev teams as well. A good way to engage our specialist team is through the mscloud_sales at Dell page. We've got folks continuously monitoring and responding to that distro. We've got your names. If not, reach out to that distro and we'll get you connected with one of our specialists. And a lot of our specialists have experience in the cloud space and discussing both CPS and DHCS with our customers. So this is a great place to start. And of course, there are a lot of resources available at Savo as well as Dell.com/DHCS. So that's all a quick technical overview. We will be putting out more deep dives in the future, and please stay connected to our Savo and DHCS, Dell.com/DHCS pages, and feel free to engage our specialists and solution centers. So thank you.